Tried.
marshmallow test.
Yeah.
My stepson tried it with his daughter, who's only 3, a little chocolate rabbit. Said, leave that, Phoebe, you can have that when we come down. I'm just going to sort Indy out and then we'll come back. And bless her, they filmed her and she did the 2 minutes. She was stroking this chocolate rabbit and playing with it, but she didn't eat it. And I thought, right, she's going to be a clever girl. I mean, she's a clever girl. I'm a bit biased, but she is clever. So I thought, well, reading the stuff in your book, it just all makes sense. But
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it all kind of fitted together for me, really.
Yeah, I think the thing related to that, you know, that willpower test, if you like, the law of instant gratification, if you like. I think the point is that there's 2 things. I mean, we can't change the personality of being someone that likes instant gratification, but you can make the long term more important, which is what we talked about, isn't it? The gift of your health, or the gift of the results that you're going to get, you know, make that the gift to yourself, the long-term thing. So you can make that stronger, but you can also train your willpower. And the more often you do, it's like, and that again, that is a habit, and that could be the habit. So that the habit, one of the habits you could choose to adopt at some point, because it's just a ritual, is saying no. You know, you could kind of say, right, for the next 21 days, the habit I'm going to adopt is saying no every time someone offers me something that I know doesn't serve me. And that's a pretty, you know, interesting habit to have. I mean, you will have a few explanations to your friends and stuff like that. But the point is that by the end of that time, from that habit, you will have definitely strengthened your willpower. Now, even if then you don't say no every time, but you've strengthened the willpower muscle, so you can make those distinctions. So that's just an interesting one. But that was the other point of it. It can be trained as well, you know, and that's what we need to try and do. What about yourself, Angela?
I think, well, the last few days have been really concentrating on my nutrition. So one of the things I've been trying to do is when I'm thinking about snacking in between meals, I think, no, I'll go and have a glass of water, or, you know, so I'm trying to make a different choice.
Fab. Fab. So yeah, and that again could definitely be the habit to lose, like I'm going to lose the habit of snacking in between meals, and then you've got to, like we've talked about before, the obstacles and what you do instead. So that's the cool thing. So if I get hungry between meals, normally this is what I do, but instead of that, this is what I'm going to do instead. So that's cool. So I think after today's session, and we've kind of done 3 that all kind of fit in quite well, it would probably be worth revisiting those kind of habits and making that distinction between, okay, is that a habit that's going to make everything easier, or is that just a choice that actually that can be something that I do as well, but I do that as that's a choice. These are a few choices that I'm going to try and make, but the habit which underpins it all, that's the things we need to try and focus on. So, you know, the habit could be planning your meals. The habits to add could be planning your meals. It could be obviously when we're out and about and going to work, one of the habits could be, you know, I prepare my lunch for tomorrow the night before, for example. You know, that the choices of what you're going to eat, but the habit would be, well, actually, if I prepare my meal the night before, the choice is irrelevant, kind of thing, or certainly easier. So that might be worth doing, is revisiting the habits in the context of willpower, and basically, I think what I'm trying to say is making sure that you've chosen the most powerful ones. Okay, awesome. Right, let's just go through the workbook. Okay, so that was the key thing, is, you know, make your willpower your why power. So we've covered this, you know, so we're talking about, like, you know, work out your willpower, so training it. So we talked about kind of getting disturbed, and we talked about that with the habits. So again, often this is just revisiting all of those things and saying, you know, do I feel the consequences strongly enough? Because essentially that is, we talked about that ikigai in the talk on Monday, the reason for being and your purpose or whatever it is. And it's like, you know, is that strong enough to keep me on track? What can I do to make that kind of as strong as possible? And have I connected into how I will feel if I don't have good willpower? What's the consequences for me? That's the key thing. And you know, I talked about that conversation of, you know, speaking to yourself 5 years in the future, and you could almost compare me 5 years in the future, having developed really great willpower, versus if I've stayed the same with it. And what's the difference, you know? And that's that process of kind of getting disturbed by the failure to evolve, I suppose, is the cool thing. So yeah, we've talked about tackling opponents and making a plan. So just, yeah, the key thing is willpower, is doing what you need to do even when you don't feel like it. And obviously I did touch on Monday, it's the other side of the coin as well, not doing the ability to not do the things you feel like doing when you know you shouldn't do. So yeah, so we did the marshmallow. So just the little exercise as you go through the workbook. I'm not sure if you've done this yet, but you know, how willpower has played a part in your life and your choices up till this point, and your self-control. Would either of you say you have good willpower or not?
I would say I have sometimes. So I can be, you know, for short to medium term, I can have really good willpower, but then I get to a point where I think, oh, I've done really well. I deserve to treat myself, and then it starts on the slippery slope.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, willpower is contextual as well, but I think that really goes back to, again, the why, because it's kind of not doing well for the sake of doing well. There's a reason behind why you wanted to do well. But then when it's kind of like, actually, when that's not that strong, it's like, oh, I've been really good, I'll reward myself. So it's almost as if just being good was the goal, which is fine. But if that's not your actual end goal, then that's when that's when it's a problem. Because if you really thought about it, if it was like, you know, say like people with a wedding or something like that, you know, say they had like 12 weeks to get in shape for a wedding and lose 2 dress sizes or whatever. After 2 weeks of being absolutely perfect, it's probably unlikely that you're going to be like, oh, I've done really well, I'll have a treat. Because it's like, well, no, because that goal is still there. And that goes back to the question we said, you know, has there ever been a time where you couldn't afford to fail? So, you know, it's a deadline or, you know, something like that. You know, I mean, coursework at school and stuff like that. I mean, and it's not like you might have failed the work, but you couldn't fail to get it in on time, you know. And that's the sort of thing where, you know, when something has got to be done, most of the time as human beings, we've got the ability. We don't tend to take on tasks that are completely beyond our ability anyway, because, you know, we don't take them on. So if something's got to be done, we tend to do it. We tend to get it done. So how do we put that mindset and that kind of urgency, if you like, or definitiveness, so I made that word up. How do we put that into practice with the goals that actually are the ones that are important to us? So I think that's key. I think that's sum that up. So we talked about that. You know, what if you had more willpower? What would kind of life be like? Did you ever go at that? Did you ever think about that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, part of my goals is about, you know, healthy eating and keeping fit and not snacking, you know, late at night when I don't need to. or at least, you know, at the moment breaking it down so that I'm making more healthy choices, so that I've got smaller steps. But I want it to be second nature, that I don't have to think about what I eat or what I choose, or, you know, that it's part of my everyday routine, that I meditate and all of that, all the things that we're trying to do. You know, I want it to be part of me.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's where I struggle, because you talked about a wedding. Well, I did lose the weight that I wanted to lose to get to my wedding.
Yeah.
But then I slipped back into my old ways again because I didn't have that goal.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think I talked about we are, it's the pursuit of the goal is the key thing. And we enjoy the pursuit more than the actual goal in terms of the motivation, the brain chemistry. You know, it is.
Lived, isn't it? The end point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's a tough one for us because, you know, if I'm marketing what we can do and how we can help and stuff like that, you know, this is the stuff that's far more powerful and life changing. But it's, you know, in terms of getting new clients, if I was like, right, you know, guarantee, if we were the place that guaranteed you'd drop 2 dress sizes before your wedding, you know, it'd be flooding in. But I know as well, like you said, it's short-lived. So it's like, actually, why is it important? Okay, well, for the wedding, it's important because I want to look good for my wedding day. But it is a bit of a superficial goal. So it's like, okay, but is that the shape you want to be in permanently?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Why is that important? So it's the power of the why question, and you have to dig down into your own goal. Why? And I think that they talk about asking the question 5 times. You know, so you know, I want to get in shape. Why? Oh, I've got a wedding. Okay, but what about after the wedding? Would you still like to be that shape? Yeah. Okay. Why? Because I want to be. I want to look good on my holidays and whatever. I want to fit good. Why? Well, because I want to feel like I feel good in my clothes. Why? Because I want to feel confident. Why? Because I want to be happy. You know, and that's how it. You know, and that path can be different for everybody. And generally, the path goes towards feeling happy, being healthy, scared of something, i.e. something with my family. So my dad had heart problems, and I know that if I'm overweight, then I'm inclined to. So that's, you know, for example, there's 3 or 4 common kind of end points to that digging deep. But that's the thing, and you know, and again, when we talk about the why power, and this is what I'd emphasise, you have to keep asking the question why. So to get to the deepest one that you can get to, because that's the one that's the most motivating. And it might take a bit of work to truly connect to it, but once you have, then like you said, Deb, you know, then it just becomes part of what you do, because it's like, well, this is what I do because this is it. You know, I want to be around longer with my grandkids, or, you know, that.
Exactly what I put on my sheet. You know, I want to be able to do things with them as they're growing up, not, you know, feel that I can't because I'm, you know, too heavy, or I'm, you know, not strong enough, or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want to have regrets, basically.
And there's no reason, and like even now, you know, there's no reason that for many people can't be healthier and more energetic and fitter as grandparents than they were as parents. You know, which would be fantastic, isn't, you know, that fantastic thing to, you know, be able to go on holidays and actually, like, this is kind of a thing for me, like, relive the period of time where actually, once the kids have grown up and whatever, you've got the energy to still enjoy your life as well with the grandkids, but without the stress You know, but these then start to become really, really powerful motivators. And the reason being is you can picture that. Do you know what I mean? You can picture, I don't know whether it's like, you know, being able to go on a holiday and, you know, go on a boating holiday and be able to jump on and off the boat, you know, really being really limber and whatever, or, you know, being able to go up hills and mountains and stuff like that, or to be able to like go and actually throw a frisbee around in the park with the kids and stuff like that, you know. And when if you can visualize that sort of thing, that's like, whoa, that's, you know, life changing. So that is why, and that's why it's so important. So yeah, so you've obviously kind of had a good think about those things, and that's the key thing. And I think that when you get to that point, the what if I don't do it probably isn't as like as strong, because once we get to the point where actually I'm pretty healthy, I just want to be at my very, very best. That's the picture that you've got to make like incredibly powerful. Like, what does that look like? And just be so infused by that. You know, that's the key thing. And I think that enthusiasm is a really important word at this point. You know, again, when you think about the why, if you can have that picture of just a lifestyle and you know, a day-to-day existence that just makes you feel so enthusiastic about achieving, then everything else just is going to be so much easier to do. Awesome. So the belief systems, we talked about this, like unlimited willpower, weddings, etc. You know, it's having that thing in front of you. So you've got to make that thing be right there in front of you. But what you have to do sometimes with this is a good exercise to do for this actually, is think about like that with the kids, with the grandkids and stuff like that. Imagine like a family photo, if you like. So if you imagine, like, say it's about, okay, I can picture myself on holiday with the grandkids and like them just loving me being with them, being able to do all those things, and think about something that you might be doing, and then see it as a you know, holiday snap, for example. But it's probably in the distance, because, you know, we are thinking about the future. And imagine that it's on like, you know, one of those kind of railings, and imagine it coming closer and closer and closer and closer. So, you know, when you visualize it, you know, visualize that kind of photograph coming closer and closer and closer to you and becoming more and more clear, until it becomes a really strong image. And what you're basically doing is you're taking a vision of the future, but bringing it so close that your kind of subconscious is almost like, you know, it's there, it's right in front of you, and it becomes the thing that, again, is right in front of you, driving you forward, in the same way as having to get in shape for my wedding is. And it's a different concept, because it's a more intangible thing. But that's what we've got to try and do, is make something that's less tangible more and more tangible to our brain and to our subconscious. Cool. So yeah, the 7, and this was really where those where I talked about the choices, because it was like, you know, when we think about the 7 fundamentals: getting enough sleep, exercise, less sugar, mindfulness, all that sort of stuff, drink what we drink, how we think, how we talk. There's no reason to not work on all of those straight away. You know, there might be one that we spend more focus on. I've just had to have a chat with Mariam today, because I'm just so, when I've realised it so much more now, because when I'm with football, I try and get in there. I try and get into the office for like 7:30, 8 o'clock, because I'd get more done then. But it was always, once I'm in there, I'm on football work, I'm not on gym work. So I'm so much at my best first thing in the morning, like get loads done. So I said to her, like, because initially I was kind of like, I'd say like, might get to 9:30, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to bed. And she's like, oh, you know. So I had to say, look, I need to be up at like 5 a.m. because like those 3 hours, you know, I get so much done. Pretty much I get a day's work done, you know, in that 2 or 3 hours. So my thing is I've got to go to bed like probably 9 o'clock or something like that. But I need to make sure that she is kind of aware of why I'm doing that. So, you know, we had that kind of conversation, and you know, she gets it now. She's just got to try and not wake me up when she comes to bed. But that's kind of to say that, to summarize both. Number one, it's like that is the one habit for me that everything else will fall into line. The choices for everything else will be easy. Eating, drinking right, thinking right. It's just going to be really easy because I've done my meditation. I've got a good chunk of work out the way. I won't be stressed to finish anything off. I can then, you know, make choices about what I choose to do for the rest of the day without any pressure. And it just falls into line just from that one habit, and that's the bang for your buck. But also, you know, I had to recognize the intimate obstacles, you know, with that. So that's kind of, and you'll have noticed a lot of this is just repeating from the other ones. It's repeating everything else. But this is where willpower comes in, though, because repeating it is training your brain. So repeating that process of thinking about the obstacles and thinking about how to overcome them is strengthening that willpower. So the nervousness comes in with the way the brain forms kind of connections in the brain. And so it mentions neurotransmitters and stuff like that in the workbook. But the synapses and the way you think is a pathway, is a neurological pathway. And it's like if you go through a forest, the first time you've got your machete, the first time you go through that forest, you have to really work hard to chop down the bushes and whatever. When you go through that exact same path a second time, it's much easier. If you do it 3, 4, 5, 6 times, eventually you don't even need the machete because it's already clear. Now in time, it will start to become overgrown again. So you've got to keep going. You've got to keep traveling that path. But the more you travel that same path in terms of how you think, the more your brain will start to release the right neurochemicals in the right areas, and you'll form these synapses in the brain. So that like we talked about, that, for example, that habit of saying no, the more you do it, the easier it becomes, because your brain just instantly has that pathway that it operates to go through it. But the other side of this with the neurotransmitters as well is they are very much affected by our diet as well. Okay, so your nutrition is really key. That's why it's important. Cool. So have you had to think about what actions you need to do to build your willpower? Things that maybe you are going to do or you're going to stop doing in order to make your willpower stronger?
Yeah, lots of things that I've been thinking about this week are, you know, sort of habits that I've not really realised, but they sabotage me all the time. So I tend to go to bed really late. And I might be falling asleep downstairs, but I've got a compulsion to finish the end of the programme, even though I might have to rewind it half a dozen times. It's really silly, and I don't know why I do it, but I do it. Of course, then I go to bed and then I'm not tired and I'm awake. And I was actually reading last night for, you know, an hour. And then I can't get up in the morning. And when I was first on furlough, I was lounging about, and like Angela had said the other day about, you know, playing on a phone and looking at Facebook and all of this. And I look at the clock and think, bloody hell, it's 10:30. What have I done this morning? Bugger all, you know.
Yeah.
So it was such a waste of time.
Yeah, and that's I don't know about you guys, but I hate that feeling as well. Like it's
loathe it. Yeah.
Hates that feeling.
Fit in.
Yeah.
It's precious to me at the minute. So, I've, you know, this time on furlough, I'm trying to work it the other way and, you know, sort of go to bed earlier and sleep better and then get up early and do all the things that I need to do.
Yeah. Awesome. And you know, hopefully you do know why you do it, because you know we talked about some of these things, especially in the habits thing, because it's what your brain knows. It's what what it's always done. It's what it's comfortable with, and it doesn't like change. It feels it doesn't know what's going to happen when you change. You know, so that's why. But it will, you know. It will get easier, just like chopping down through the forest. You know, the more you do it, it will get much easier. What about you? Anything for yourself on that, Angela?
I think I just had that feeling today of like, you know, I don't want to have to keep going through the really difficult time of, you know, starting from scratch and, you know, wanting to, you know, having to do the exercise for the first time in months and, you know, the diet again. And I just want to keep it going because it is easier once you've done it for a while. So why put yourself through it? Yeah.
And it was you that I said that on the accountability form, wasn't I? That, you know, a little bit of progress is still progress, you know, it's still, and that's it's, you know, the law of inertia, isn't it? And, it's one of Newton's laws, and that, I think it's one of Newton's laws. If once an object is in motion, unless there's factors to slow down that motion, it will keep moving. So you know, once an object is in motion, it basically has terminal velocity, apart from friction. So you know, if I push a ball, if there was no friction, no wind resistance, anything else, it would literally keep going. And every object is the same. So in other words, when something's in motion, its natural state is to stay in motion. It's easier to stay in motion than not. When something's not in motion, its natural state is to stay still. So it's harder to get something going than it is to keep something going. So yeah, awesome. So you know, we talked about the kind of self-talk as well, and that comes back to the future you as well. What's the kind of self-talk like as well? All the benefits of that. We've done all those. And then, so not in the workbook, but you know, then the last one was that 5 seconds and 5 minutes. So you know, just that exercise of every single time. And again, that's something where just neurologically it becomes easier the more you do it. Is just get a countdown, and it's like Pavlov's conditioning. If you start to give yourself a countdown in your head every time, like you want to kind of make yourself do something. You know, and you make sure by the time you get to 3 or 4, you've got up and you've started washing the dishes, or you've got up and you've started, like, it's like every time that you start to do that countdown, you just know, it's almost like as you go through that countdown, your resistance to it just starts to drop because it's been conditioned into you.
Mm-hmm. I did try that last night, actually. It did work. Yeah.
And it's gonna, like, the first, when you start doing it, it's going to take a lot of conscious effort. But the point is that it's like, you know, that's just this thing. I'm going to count to 5 and I'm going to do it. But when you start to do that every time, then eventually, when you start to count to 5, it's just a natural thing. It's just my instinct now is, okay, that's my countdown. It's like, you know, you could do it with like entrance music, you know, boxers and whatever have their entrance music. You could do that, like play a little song in your head. It's the same thing in a way. It's just a trigger. It's just a trigger. But the countdown is good because it bridges the gap, because you've got that gap of needing to do something, being in a state where you don't want to, and you need to bridge that gap somehow. And it's like, okay, I'm going to give myself a countdown to it. So psyching yourself up, I suppose.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Any questions or anything? Any other feedback?
No.
Questions?
No, I don't think so.
No, all good on that. Fab. Awesome. So Monday we are doing self-belief actually now. Moving on to self-belief.
Okay. Is it Monday that we're doing it, or is it?
Yes, yeah. We'll go back to normal. We'll go back to normal. So cool.
I can't remember this time.
Well, it's because obviously the bank holiday, which
I just completely forgot.
Oh dear. Cool. Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.